In this video, I'm going to break down the bass guitar tracks. You can see there are three of them. The DI bass is the bass guitar sound direct into the sound card. The next track is the sub track. This one is blended in subtly and used for its low end. And then finally, there's a DI dirt track, which is the distorted bass. They're actually all using the same audio, which is just the DI'd bass. So by itself, the dry signal sounds like this. Interestingly, an amped bass was recorded, but that track was ditched because Mikko felt he could get an equally good sound, if not a better one, using his IRs. But moving on to these tracks, first I'm going to break down the DI'd bass sound. It starts with the Chris Lord Alge bass plugin by Waves. This is a specialty plugin that does several things at once. In short, what it's doing here is it's applying a scoop to the mids and boosting the highs, which is something you can do with a built-in EQ, and then it's adding some distortion to the sound to give the bass a more aggressive tone. You can of course get the distortion with any built-in distortion plugin. My recommendation is when you're applying it to bass, don't use a whole lot because you won't need much to get this kind of sound. Here's what the track sounds like first as is, and then with the CLA bass applied. After that, some compression is being applied. The Waves Puig Child 660 is being used, which is modeled after the iconic Fairchild compressor. As I've said previously, while the look of the various compressors changes, they all pretty much have the same basic controls. So here it starts with the input gain. This boosts the level of the signal being fed into the compression circuit. The threshold is set so about 10 decibels is being taken off in gain reduction. The time constant switch sets the attack and release. As set, a fast 0.2 millisecond attack and fast 0.3 millisecond release are being applied. You'll notice the output is quite a bit louder than the bypass signal. This is due to the gain being applied at the input stage. Following the Puig Child, the Waves L2 limiter is being applied. The controls on the L2 are pretty basic, and you can replicate its effect with a built-in limiter. It's being used to take off around 3 decibels, and the ceiling is set so the level cannot exceed -9 decibels. The limiting here is being applied to further limit the dynamic range of the bass guitar. Finally, on the DI bass, CabLab 3 is being applied. This plugin applies impulse response captures, which is a fancy way of saying the EQ response of a speaker cabinet as recorded by a microphone. The type of cab, mic, and mic placement all affect the resulting curve. Mikko did a shoot of an Ampeg 410 cab and released it in alliance with Fractal Audio. The IR can be used in the Axe effects, but it can also be used via CabLab 3 as a VST plugin. Both the IR pack and CabLab 3 are available at shop.fractalaudio.com. Unless your DAW comes with an IR plugin, there's no way to really create the same effect other than applying a lot of EQ treatment. You can see the curve being applied, which is bass mix 8 from Cab Pack 11, is fairly complex. And it fills the sound out pretty drastically. It really gives a compelling sense of the bass guitar being run through a cab. Next up is the sub bass track. I'm going to turn this track up so you can hear it, as at its present level of -16, it's pretty quiet. It starts out with the same processing that's being applied to the DI bass from the CLA bass plugin. Then is the Puigchild 660 with the same settings as before. This time, he follows it with CabLab 3 using the same IR. In his notes to me, he mentioned he used the same bass signal with almost the same chain of effects to function more like a multi-band compressor where each track is emphasizing different frequency ranges. This one obviously emphasizes the lower ones. And finally, again, there's the L2. The settings are slightly different, but it's still taking off around 3 decibels in gain reduction via limiting. The last bass track is DI Dirt. The first plugin here, again, is the Wave CLA bass with the same settings, so I don't need to play it because you've already heard it on the other 2 channels. Following that is the Soundtoys Decapitator plugin. This plugin adds a very gritty distortion to the sound. If you're replicating this using a built-in plugin, you'll want to make sure there's a lot of emphasis on the highs. Finally, CabLab 3 is being used. If you look at this part of the EQ, you can see the highs are being rolled off right around 8 kilohertz or so. You'll notice this takes all the harsh brightness out of the sound. All 3 bass tracks are being routed to a bass group. The first treatment here is Mikko's go-to blending EQ, the API 550A. The high and low bands are set to shelving, and a 6 dB boost is being applied at 300 Hz. A 2 decibel cut is being applied at 1.5 kilohertz, and a 4 decibel boost is being applied at 5 kilohertz. And finally, the output is being reduced by 2 decibels. You'll hear this EQ treatment beefs up the sound and also helps provide emphasis to the attack. After that, a gate is being applied. You can use the gate that comes with your DAW here. It's just being used to make sure that no sound gets through during the rests in the verse. After that, the Wave's C4 multiband compressor is being applied. Most DAWs come with a multiband compressor that offers similar functionality. The biggest part of what's happening here is a lot of control is being applied to the lowest band, which, as set, is 250 Hz and lower. The midband, which, as set, is 250 to 6 kHz, is also applying a moderate amount of compression. Not much compression is being applied to the higher 2 bands. During playback, watch the orange line. Basically, the more downward it moves, the more compression that's being applied to that band. You'll hear this treatment really cleans the sound up quite a bit. Finally, the Waves NLS plugin that we saw applied to the drum bus in the last video is being applied again here with the same settings. Here's what the tracks sound like before and after all the treatments I've gone over in this video. Definitely a more aggressive sound. It's fuller, but it's also very controlled in the low range. And this is crucial for this type of music as too much bass can take out all the edge of a mix. Up next, I'm going to cover the guitar tracks.